and he believed that I had hit on something somewhere. Like that, basically, I think I had made a judge in that town very, very nervous, because they thought that I knew the name and exactly who this judge was that was doing this kind of thing. And I didn't. But because I was right about a lot of different things and I didn't even know I was right, and because sometimes it just sounded like I might know, but I didn't, I do remember that at that time people were acting very panicked around me and desperate to do some kind of harm to me. It was like they were worried that at any moment I might give out the name. And I didn't ever, nobody ever gave me a specific name of someone. I had gone to the FBI about a couple people, and, you know, I had filed this one lawsuit over in Oregon. But had I ever witnessed a judge snorting coke or dealing it or doing something like that? No, I had not. So I didn't know. I did know that a lot of judges were acting like criminals towards me. And it's almost like they have their own judicial mafia, which is kind of crazy, but again, very true. Judges are kind of like, well, anyway. So when this man told me, and then he also told me that there was a woman in Wenatchee who, and he said that this had happened a couple of times, where there was a woman in Wenatchee who had reported a judge for trying to use her public defender was trying to use her to do sexual favors for him, and all the police were in on it. And I remember he said that. Now that I'm remembering this, he said all the police were in on it. And at that time, I hadn't fully made the connection, or I was so traumatized I was forgetting it sometimes, that the police had stood by when this Italian-American had raped me, and even in Wenatchee. You know, and other law enforcement individuals had done things to me while I was incapacitated. And knew. I mean, like, they planned it ahead. If they were totally as drunk as I was, that's different. But that's not what was going on. And it was being premeditated. So this man was also telling me that another woman had been targeted and basically told, if you ever want to see your child again, you'd better do this or that. And that they had some kind of a ring or a circle where police and different people were a part of it. So they, and I was told they did this at the Coast Hotel. And this was before I was ever banned, quote unquote banned, from the Coast Hotel and slandered as being a prostitute by the Wenatchee and Chelan Douglas PD. I never went into anybody's private room in the Coast Hotel. I have never seen the inside of any of those Coast Hotel rooms. I went up to that very top floor, and there were windows all the way around where anybody from across the river could see. I mean, if they have binoculars. And I was studying and trying to figure out what to do with my son, that kind of thing, emailing. But he told me that there was a death, there was a hit out on me, is what he said. Oh, crap. I mean, I guess if he had actually said there's a hit out on you, I probably would have paid better attention. And it's like a little late for me to even think about it now in that way. But that's what he was trying to tell me. That's what he did tell me. And I thought of it as him telling me that there was a death, that kind of giving me a death threat. Not him himself, maybe, but for someone else. And then the only thing that was a little weird is when someone else drove by, he gave him kind of a smirk, like they knew what was going on. And I didn't know what that was about. I was like, are they pulling my leg, or he's just doing a favor for somebody? But then again, I thought, you know, why would anyone say something like that? Typically, someone would just not say anything if they weren't trying to help you. So he said that there was a death threat, or that it gave me a death threat, said that judges wanted to kill me. There's a group of judges working against me. And this was before I ever went to New Mexico that I was told this. It was in about probably March, because my son was taken from me in February or January. And then I left for the East Coast, I believe in April, after the contested shelter care hearing. And April 26th or 29th, or something like that, that was the time that they assigned my son with a social security number against my will in Spokane, after they won this horrible slam dunk case against me by not allowing me to speak or have any representation. And so this this man that I met was before April, so it had to have been March or April. It was March or April. And I really wish that I had thought about it in more of a direct way of, he didn't give me a death threat, but more in a sense of, this man just told me that there's a hit on me. Because that would have made it, I could have maybe been more careful. And it would have made more sense as to why then there were big boulders in the middle of the road when I was taking the Greyhound on the way back to Wenatchee to visit my son, and our bus crashed into it. And it would have made other things that had happened to me where I was almost hit, that would have made more sense to me too. I mean, I had an assassination attempt when there was a hit and run in Oregon, and it was kind of made to be an accident. I kind of played it off as an accident, but it wasn't an accident. So if there were judges already trying to put a hit on me, somebody put a hit on me for that. But I didn't think it was judges. When I was in Wenatchee, this man told me that it was 10 or so judges, and I hadn't even met that many in Wenatchee. I'd met maybe 4 or 5 of them. 5 of them by that time. So I was kind of counting in my head, and I was thinking, okay, and then I guess this will have to be including some of the judges in Oregon. Or maybe ones I don't know about in this area. And then, true enough, I then was finding that there was a hit, or what definitely looks like a hit attempt, in my travel again when I was trying to take a bus, which actually I skipped right over, and I went right to the part where I was leaving for the East Coast, and then I was in New Mexico, and then I was leaving. I just kind of left off and went on this tangent as I was talking about leaving New Mexico and how I wondered why the FBI didn't give me a bus ticket to get safely from New Mexico to the East Coast. But I will tell you what happened at that truck stop next, yet I need to back up just a tiny bit and talk about this bus situation where CPS was scheduling these buses, the Greyhound bus for me. And as I've already stated, it was mandated, by law. They were required to provide that if they had a case against somebody, if they chose to pursue that, that was what they had to do. And I took the bus, but as I said, they stalled and were not allowing me to get on the bus in time first. And then finally, when I did get on it, I think it was the second trip, or maybe second or third trip from Bellingham to Wenatchee. And the bus was not very full. There were maybe 6 people on there total. It was, including the bus driver. It was really empty. And it was a bus that was leaving late at night from Bellingham. So not a lot of people are leaving late at night in Bellingham, kind of midweek, to go to Wenatchee. And it was probably dusk, when we boarded, but then it was already dark within an hour. And this bus driver that I talked to, I just felt like being talking, and he said that he had actually been a hired hitman for some group, and I don't know which group. I've never known about mafia, mobster stuff. It's interesting in books, but I don't know at all how they work. And I've never met anybody who's ever come out to me and said, I'm part of such and such. Never. So he was saying this. So this was the first time, and probably the only time, where somebody that I actually met face to face tells me that he worked as a hitman for a certain group, and he felt really bad. He'd done maybe a little bit, or was going to do a few things for them, and then when it came down to it, he felt really bad about the person that they had chosen, and he decided to back out because it went really against his conscience. So he ended up going to the FBI. And then the FBI had a case against this individual, or this group, so they swapped him between 2 different states. They put him between, I think he was saying Florida was one, and then there was another state, and he was in between these 2 states. And one state was promising, we'll give you full witness protection if you will testify for us. And then the other state promised the same thing, but then they were kind of throwing him back and forth. Basically, they said, one of them made the promise, and they even signed a contract. But then, when it came down to it, after he had testified, and then exposed himself and made himself vulnerable, then the FBI wasn't willing to give him witness protection. So they basically used him and then left him out in the cold to get killed. And he said that he had talked to a lawyer, and the lawyer said he had to go into hiding. He had to go to a different part of the United States and try to find some way to blend in, because until this lawyer could sort things out and they could get this witness protection for him that he was promised and that it was signed for. So that was kind of shocking to me that the FBI would actually do something like that, like offer witness protection and then take it back. And it's kind of like being tortured, and then the government decides, oh, we're not going to torture her anymore. Oh, okay, but now we take it back. And we're going to torture her son again, too. What's the point of that? So this guy was left in the open to get killed. In my situation, my own government has tried to kill me. People in my own government have. It's not a lie. And so then I found his story fascinating, of course. It sounded like something straight out of a novel.